Okay, guys, welcome to the last set of notes for Chapter 5. We're going back to Lesson 5-6 and to Lesson 5-7, and we're going to be talking about reflections. Okay, reflections. And today's date is going to be 1/24/19. Okay, so this is going to be a strange set of notes. I'm not sure how many pages it's going to take for me, or how many screens. It should take you 2 complete pages because we're going to do one about reflections over the x-axis and one a reflection over the y-axis. So everything that deals with the x-axis is going to be on one page. Everything about the y-axis is going to go on the other. So first thing I want to do is to come up with a definition of what on earth is a reflection. Now I'm going to do something a little funky, and I did some capital letters and a different color. So what is a reflection? And it is a mirror image, of an object. So it's like we put a mirror down and it reflects it. A mirror image of an object on the opposite side of a line of reflection. Now, we kind of talked about this notion when we were looking at the number lines and how 0 is kind of where the mirror would be, and the numbers reflected opposite of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 were -1, -2, -3, -4, and so on. So 1 was 1 to the right of 0, -1 was 1 to the left of 0. So where I drew kind of an invisible line over where the 0 was, that's the point of reflection, okay? Now, why did I do those letters so large and in the middle there? Because here's what I want you to think of when you think of a reflection. What I want you to think is of a flip. Okay, a flip. Okay, so for the next probably 2 screens, we're going to just focus in on reflections over the x-axis. And so the x-axis is going to be our line of reflection. So it's kind of like that line passing through. 0 is that horizontal line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in one of our grids. I'm going to draw a shape, and then we're going to look at the ordered pairs that we get. And the other thing is really would be in your best interest to have at least 2 colors, okay? All right, let's see if I can get this picture in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an original shape, and it's going to have some ordered pairs. So I'm going to color code original shape. Okay, and the first order pair is going to be at 1, 3. So we're going to make sure those little graphs that I gave you, you're going to cut out one and put it over here. And that ordered pair is 1, 3. And then another point is going to be point 1, 1. And the last point is going to be 2, 1. So if I connect them, it looks like a letter L, okay? Now, I'm going to draw the reflection over the x-axis. I'm going to color my x-axis a bright green. So I'm going to reflect over that. So I'm going to take that L shape and I'm going to flip it over. So each point has to be the same distance away from that green line, okay? So here we go. So this point, the very first point we put in was 1, 3, and it's 3 above the x-axis, and so we want it to end up being 3 below. 1, 2, 3. So that's what the reflection is going to give us right there. So that ordered pair is 1, -3. The next point we put in was 1, 1. So it's 1 above the x-axis at 1 on the x-axis. So we're going to go 1 below the x-axis. So that would be 1, -1. And then the 2, 1, the reflection is going to be at where x equals 2, but it's going to be 1 above is what our original one is. So we want to graph it 1 below. So that's going to give us 2, -1. So if I connect, what we have is a flipped image when I reflect. Okay? So what are some observations we can make from the original shape? Oh, you know what? That wasn't very good. I'm going to rearrange this. Sorry, guys. I'm going to take all those blue guys out. And we'll start from scratch here. I apologize. Let's still use that blue, but what we're going to do is call it the reflection over here. Give ourselves some space. I got so excited by drawing. Okay, well, let's try this again. So the 1, 3 is 3 above the x-axis, so its reflection would be 3 below. So that's 1, -3. And then the 1, 1 is going to be 1 above, so we're going to make it 1 below. So that's going to be 1, -1 when I look at the ordered pairs. And the 2, 1, it's 1 above the x-axis, so its reflection would be 1 below. Still at the same x value, so it would be 2, -1. And again, connect real pretty. Okay? So what I want to do is kind of look at a relationship between what I started with and what I ended with, and we're going to make some observations. This is going to help me do my reflection. Okay, so what are some things we observe? Well, look at your x's. 1 to 1, 1 to 1, 2 to 2. So the x-coordinates stay the same. So when I'm reflecting over the x-axis, the x's don't change. X-coordinates remain the same. And then what happens to the y-coordinates? And this is where we're going to use some of that good language we've learned. Use some good words. 3 becomes -3, 1 becomes -1, 1 becomes -1. So the numbers we get for the y are the same numbers, but they are on the opposite side of the x-axis, so we end up with opposites. So y-coordinates are the opposite of the original y-coordinates. So opposite means same number, different sign. Okay. So that's a pattern that's always going to be true when we reflect over the x-axis. All right. So I don't know if we can get these both on here. Let's see. I don't want to crowd things. So directions. It's going to name the ordered pair. That is the reflection of each point across the x-axis. So again, these directions I'm giving you are worded just the same way that the book is, at the same way that it's going to be in our test. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and pop up another grid for us. Okay, so there it is magically appearing, and we have 2 questions we're going to answer. it's going to ask us to find the ordered pair that it's the reflection of -2, 5. And we're going to call him, we'll just call him number 1. Okay, so when we label, remember we talked about we can label a point either by a capital letter or with the problem number. And we're also then going to take a reflection of -3, -1. So we're going to do this one at a time. I'm going to go with black on the first one for the original point. So I'm going to find -2 to the left of 0 from the origin, go up to 5. So way up here. And I'm going to just label him 1. So the reflection says, let's color in that reflection line again. So what I want is my point, that's a reflection of point 1, is going to be the same distance from the x-axis, but on the opposite side. So let's color him a nice, pretty purple. So if he's 5 above the x-axis, the reflection should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 below the x-axis. Now I'm going to label him R1. So that's the reflection for point 1. So what I'm going to do is check out what the ordered pair would be. So if I noticed, I'm still at -2 on the x-axis, but this time I'm at -5 on the y-axis. So did that meet the pattern where the x-coordinates stayed the same and the y-coordinates are the opposite? -2 and -2, same. And then 5 to -5? Yep, it meets the criteria. All right, let's do another one. Let's do a bright kind of turquoisey color. And we're going to graph -3, -1. So -3 x-axis, and then we're going to go to -3. So this I'm going to label 2. Come on, let me label. That doesn't look real good. Let me try that again. 2. So that's our 2. And then I'm going to graph its reflection over the x-axis. So in other words, my point 2 is 1 below the x-axis at where x equals -3. So I want my reflection, oops, I should do that one in black as well. Arg, my color scheme's all messed up in my brain today. Let's try this again. 3, 1. That's going to be our number 2. Now the reflection's going to be that pretty blue. So if it was 1 below, we're going to make ours 1 above. Okay? And so that's going to be our reflection for point 2. So let's looking at that ordered pair. Let's see, we had -3, +1. So let's see if it met our criteria. Did our x-coordinates stay the same? Yep, -3, -3. Are our y-coordinates opposites? -1 becomes 1. Yep, there we go. Okay? So now we have one more set of directions, so it looks like I'm going to be able to cram this all on here. Wow! So you can make this neatly on my page when I did it in my composition notebook. This set of directions went under that first set of directions, the one that we just practiced. So we're going to graph the given point. Then graph its reflection across the x-axis. Okay, I'm going to add another grid. So remember, your job is to be gluing these grids down and doing the same thing that I have. So we have problems 3 and 4. So 3 says we're going to graph point A, and it's going to be at 2, -4. And then we're going to graph point C, Oh, here we go. This is interesting. And it's located at 2, 3 and a half. All right, so now what we're going to do is try to use our rule. And let's draw in over the x-axis. Oops, sorry. I thought I changed my colors. So let's draw in our x-axis that we're reflecting over. And let's look at what we think the ordered pair would be. Now we're going to graph and we'll see, did we do it right? So I'm going to call it A with a sub R. Sub means low, and that means the reflection of point A. So according to our rules, the x-coordinates remain the same, so 2 stays 2, but the y-coordinates are the opposite, so -4 becomes a +4. All right, let's look at number 4, and let's do C reflection. And let's see, we've got a 2 stays 2, but the 3.5 becomes -3.5. Okay, so let's see if these work out. So let's start with our A. So he's at 2, -4, 1, 2, 3. He's right there. That's A. Now I'm going to graph our reflection of A sub R, and it says 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that look like the reflection? Oh, it sure does. It's on line with A, so I could draw a vertical line through it, and it's 4 above the x-axis where A was 4 below. All right, I think we got this. All right, let's do C. So he's going to be a little trickier, so we're going to be at 2, and then we're going to go to 3.5. So 1, 2, 3. So 3.5, ooh, that's going to be right in between. You know what? Let's change these numbers. This is going to be too messy. So what we're going to do with our numbers is let's just make it a whole number. Let's just not be so fussy. So let's try this again. So we're going to go 2, 3 is our original ordered pair, and then our reflection is going to be 2, -3. Otherwise, it's just way too messy. It's still going to be a little messy. Should have changed my x values. Oh well, life is going on. It's too many changes. I know you're going to get mad at me. So 2, and then we go 1, 2, 3. So that's our point C. And we said that our reflection should be at 2, -3. So again, we're on the same vertical line for C and C reflection. C is 3 above the x-axis, and C reflection is 3 below the x-axis. All right, not too bad. So I told you this was going to be a long set of notes, but this is just the way it is. So we're going to go to the next page, and we're going to talk about reflections over the y-axis. So what you guys keep forgetting to do is to title your pages, even though I do it with you in class. Oops. But you don't always write what I tell you to. Very interesting. So we got reflections, the date again. This is a 1/24/19. And we're going to do the same exact thing, but now what we're going to do is talk about reflections over the y-axis. So before I say anything, what do you think's going to happen? What's going to be the same in the ordered pairs, and what do you think's going to be different? Okay? And as you think about that, I'm going to go ahead and put in a graph. And let's see if your predictions are right. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did before. Let's do an original shape. And let's graph 1, 3, 1, 1, and 2, 1. So do those ordered pairs sound familiar? Well, they should. Actually, that looks so bad. Sorry. They're the same exact ones we started with before. So we're going to graph 1, 3, 1, 1, and 2, 1. Okay, but remember where our axis of symmetry is this time. It's going to be the y-axis. Okay, so now let's do our reflection. And that's going to be over the y-axis. And so I'm going to do it point by point. So let's go to that 1, 3. So 1, 3 is at 3 on the y-axis. It's 1 to the right, so our reflection is going to have to be 1 to the left. So if I write that ordered pair, I'm going to get -1, 3. Okay, let's do the next one. Next point was 1, 1. So he's 1 on the y-axis, but he's 1 to the right on the x, so ours should be 1 to the left. So if I write that ordered pair, we're at -1, 1. Okay, so then the last one, 2, 1, is 1 on the y-axis, but 2 to the right on the x. So we're going to mark ours 2 to the left. So those, let's see, coordinates would be -2, 1. And if I connect them, I get an L shape that's just a flip of it. Okay, so we flipped over the y-axis, whereas before we flipped over the x-axis. So, did you guess this right? Look at your coordinates. In this case, what's true about the x coordinates? Well, I went from 1 to -1, 1 to -1, 2 to -2. So the x coordinates are the opposites of the original x coordinates. Okay, the x coordinates are the opposites. 1 became -1, 1 became -1, 2 became -2. Okay, so what's happening though with our y coordinates? So let's see, 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1. The y's didn't change, so the y coordinates stay the same. Is that what you thought? If you did, good job. If not, keep practicing. It's going to make sense. So it seems whatever axis we're reflecting over, that coordinate doesn't change. The other coordinate is going to become the opposite. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did. We have 2 sets of directions. And I'm going to pause this and write it out. Well, no, I'll just do it. You can do it with me. So we have named the ordered pair. Named the ordered pair. That is a reflection of each point across the y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to magically add my grid. Hold on. Okay, there he is. And for 1 on this side, so it's like we're doing 2 separate nodes. We're going to start with -4, 4, and the second one will be at 2, -1. Okay, so I'm going to graph these one at a time and figure out what their reflection would be, write it out, and then we're going to do and label with the problem number. So here, let's go -4, so from the origin to -4, and then up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where point 1 is located. Now remember, we're reflecting not over the x, but over the y. So we're 4 to the left of the y-axis, so that means we're going to go 4 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, and that's where he's going to end up, is right there. And that's going to be our reflection. So 1 reflection. So let's look at our ordered pairs. We are 4 on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis. So let's see if that matches. Did our x-coordinate, was it the opposite of the original? So -4 becomes 4. Yep. And are the y-coordinates the same? 4 stays 4. Yep. Okay, let's do the next one. 2, -1. So we go to 2 on the x down to 1. So that's 0.2. And then we're going to reflect. So let's see. If I reflect, let's see, over the y, I was 2 to the right, so I want to go 2 to the x. But what I'm making sure is I'm staying on the same y level. Okay, so it's a direct, straight across from each other. So let's see, that would be 2 reflection. So let's look at what the ordered pairs are. So it's at -2, -1. So let's see if that met our condition. The x's are opposites, so 2 and -2 are opposites. Yeah, the y-coordinate stays the same. -1 is the same as -1. Brilliant! All right, one last part to do. You guys are doing great. Thank you. And again, you can fast forward, you can freeze your frame, write down your directions, and then fast forward to get into the rest of it. Don't forget, you got to glue stuff down. So this one, we're going to graph each point. Then graph its reflection. Across the y-axis. Okay, let me pop in my picture, my graph. Okay, so third problem, we're going to have B, which is located at -1.53. And the last problem on this side, we're going to have D at 5, -1. Okay, so let's see if we can come up with what our reflection should look like, and then we're going to graph and verify that, yep, those are truly reflections over the y-axis. So let's do B prime, or B prime, B reflection. So according to this, the x-coordinates are going to be the opposites. I'm going to do this underneath so we can see it better. So that would be +1.5, and the y-coordinates stayed the same, so 3 stays 3. So let's go ahead and graph that and see if it works out the way that we think it should. So we're going to go to -1.5 on the x. So that means I'm going to be halfway between -1 and -2, and then I'm going to move up 1, 2, 3. So it should be right here in the middle. So that's our B. Now remember, we're reflecting over the y-axis this time. Oh, that could stand to be a little straighter. That's a little better. And then our reflection, we said, should be at 1.5, so between 1 and 2, and up 1, 2, 3. Oh, you can hardly see that. I'm going to use a different color purple, and that shadow doesn't look very good. So I'm going to darken it so that we can see it. And then that's going to be our B reflection. So let's see. They're directly across from each other as they cross through the y-axis, so that's good. And one is 1.5 to the left, the other one is 1.5 to the right. Brilliant. I think we got this. All right, on this last guy, let's see what I want to do. Something darker seems to work better over there. Let's do this kind of darker green. So let's see. If I want D reflection, let's see. X coordinates are going to be opposite, so 5 becomes a negative 5. Y coordinates stay the same, so negative 1. Okay, so let's do our graphing. Let's start with D. And we go 5 and then down to negative 1. So that's our D. And then we said with the reflection, we're going to go to negative 5 and down to negative 1. So that's our D reflection. So let's see. They're on the same horizontal line as each other, which is exactly what we need to pass through the y-axis. The D was 5 to the right, and the D reflection is 5 to the left. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Have fun with this tonight.